Hey, what's up? It's Hunna. You're watching a 416 interview.
When did you start creating music?
I've been around music pretty much all my life, I'm not going to lie, but I started recording around 2017, kind of like producing beats and stuff like that, but I wasn't doing it seriously. This past year, though, 2022 in December, I decided to kind of take it seriously and I really put my all into music. So then this whole year, I guess you could say, has just been my first serious, dedicated year to music.
How long were you creating like beats for?
I want to say like inconsistently for like a few years, kind of like here and there. I would just like I'd get a writer's block or something like that, and I would just say, go and try and make a beat or something like that instead to kind of keep the workflow going instead of just kind of sitting there waiting to get out of the writer's block.
So were you like a producer then? When you first started like hopping into this like creative industry kind of?
A little bit of both. Like when I initially first started, I wanted to do a little bit of both, but I ended up learning that producing is a lot harder than you think. So I ended up like I never found a lot of balance in there. And then, my primary focus was just like recording and like doing like the rapping and recording and stuff, vocal work. So I ended up kind of switching gears. So I guess on the side a little bit, like I'll do a bit of producing and stuff, mixing for people. But like I usually tell people, I guess it's nothing like professional. Like I don't charge for it or anything like that. Like it's just kind of to help me get better at it.
So what made you start creating music?
So back in the day, it's actually it's kind of a long story, I guess. It's pretty funny. I used to party a lot. I'm not gonna lie. So I was out drinking, partying and stuff like a lot through high school, just kind of like skipping out in school and stuff like that. Being a hooligan, typical kid, and so I ended up having my buddy actually William or Murph, as everyone knows him. He ended up kind of like telling me like we should do some kind of better, more progressive instead of just like sitting around just wasting time partying and like wasting our money and stuff like that. He was actually producing at the time too, so I used to go to his house and he would be playing beats and stuff that he made at the time. And I would just be like, oh, like this is super cool, man. Like I wish I could rap or I wish I could do some on this. And then one day he's like, why don't you? And I was like, you know what? Oh shit. So like me and him, he actually helped me write my first verse and all that stuff. And then we ended up putting it out on SoundCloud. Like this was actually back in 2017 as well. This was like the what do you want to call it? Prototype days, I guess you could say. We're still finding our sound and stuff like that. This is like 2017 was a really big time for SoundCloud as well, where we had like the freshman classes coming out and stuff like that. So it was one of those times where we were just like jumping in just to see what we could do with it.
Let me take it back to you. What's how did you come up with your artist name, Hunna?
In Canada, you already know, I guess, too, it being in Toronto, out in Newfoundland is where all my family's from. So like they have very East Coast accents. My real name is actually Hunter. But my dad and like my family out east, they always called me like Hunter or Hunter or like, they'd like said Hunna or Hunter. So like my friends ended up hearing that one day. They came over and they heard my dad say that and they just thought it was really funny. So they were like, they just started calling me that. And ever since then, I guess that's just been who I am. I just kind of, adapted that to my identity.
Let's move on to your creative process. So what's kind of like, how do you create a song?
Personally, what I like to do is if I'm not producing the beat myself, I got a couple of select people. I'll actually give some shout outs to Neku on YouTube, Lethal Needle. There's tons and tons of producers, but Young LaFlame, a couple other guys as well. But my select kind of couple producers or myself, I'll go find myself a beat. From there, I'll kind of like hum out a rhythm, kind of try to find a flow where something similar to that. And then from there, I'll begin writing based off the flow scheme. Find the words I want to use. Also, it's themes and topics of a song kind of come like at the same time as flow, like as I'm like humming it out. Then from there, basically, is just kind of like hopping in the studio, getting it recorded and stuff. I make all my stuff on an iPhone in BandLab too, so like it's a little bit difficult.
Wait, like still?
Yeah. I've been using BandLab pretty much this whole year. Yeah, like everything I have released on any like professional platforms was all made on my iPhone, like in just Apple headphones. These ones right here, actually.
That's crazy because it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, I do all my mixing I do on FL Studio though on my computer, but I don't have like a mic or interface set up yet. I'm kind of working to build up to that. I'm going to invest in that here soon, but yeah, it's one of those things. Honestly, just hop in. Like I actually just hop in my car and I just close the door at nighttime and just record on my headphones, and then from BandLab, I have like my own presets, stuff like that. I've been working with autotune a little bit lately. I actually have this like crazy like song that's gonna come out. I think it might be a little bit game changing, but I'm gonna have to see what happens with that one, I guess. But for the most part, I'm not gonna lie. Like creative process is just going with the flow. Like creation is is so subjective, like for every single person. Like there's not really any way you could do it, and that's how the best creations are always made so unexpectedly. Like in my opinion too, like my biggest song right now is sitting at 44 and like K, and that song actually just came out of like pure emotion. I went through a pretty like rough breakup or whatever, like just a long story basically, but I was just kind of like I was in a place where I just wanted to say, man, like what the hell. I released it on a song, and then yeah, there you go. Basically, just went with the flow, kind of released it how it was supposed to be. Have faith in the process is definitely like my key advice.
Are you a freestyler or do you like to write down?
It's a little bit of both. Like I wouldn't say I'm like good, like professionally or good at freestyling, but I'll always freestyle my melodies or like my flows and stuff on beats, like before I begin to write, for sure. Like I think personally, like I guess we've seen examples with like Juice World and other artists or whatever that show that they would freestyle their like lyrics and then write down what they freestyled on the beat after. It was like pure artistry, I guess you could say. And that's how I figure it too. Is like you can't just like listen to a beat, I guess, and follow the patterns like by mathematics or like like it doesn't have to be a syllable on every beat or whatever. Like freestyle it. That's the whole point. That's where your like the sauce comes from, the flow, the style. That's the best part of it.
So then let me ask you, as being like knowing a little bit more than most people do about producing beats and stuff like that, and just about beats in general, are you really picky when it comes to beats that you like make music over?
Yeah, it's just a little bit. It's actually pretty well known within my friend group that I'm very, very picky when it comes to beats. Like I'll sit there for hours and hours listening to beats, but at the same time, I always, in my defense, I always used to say like, trust me, like when we find that one beat, like I don't know, like the best beats, at least for me, I would go on YouTube and I'll find a beat, and then right off the start, I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, and like we like basically just have something written in our head to it already. It just comes so naturally. But then there's other beats we'll find, and like I've had friends too that said like we should hop on a song together on this beat, and like if it like I find if it has to come forced, then it's like not very. It's like you said, it's not as pure, I guess. Like the freestyle thing, it's not like I don't know. It's like more processed, I guess, synthetic. It's not like raw and from the soul.
How would you describe the music you create? What genre would you like put it in?
That's a pretty tough question. I'm not gonna lie. That's something I've been battling with this year myself because I've been told like so many different things. I've been like from aesthetic rap. I guess earlier in the year I was kind of doing a little bit of that when I like first broke out, and then from there I've kind of produced or progressed into like hyper pop, kind of like plug and be kind of like music. And then as of right now, I could say that I fully make all my unreleased stuff is plug and be definitely. But it's kind of a fusion, I guess. I would want to say like in the beginning, I was thinking when I did aesthetic rap, it would be cool to like mix plug with the aesthetic rap, and then like that's kind of where the plug and B sound came from. But I'm trying to find a way to pioneer that and tweak it a little bit too, because another, I guess, point of view is I'm very driven towards the evolution of music. Like a lot of people might hate on that a little bit, but I find that like the constant evolution is also there's beauty in the change in a way. Things change with like the years, and if things stay static, they become saturated.
So when I was doing my research on you, I honestly didn't know you were like a producer or you were producing beats because I couldn't find that anywhere. So now that I know that you're a producer or like was producing, I want to ask you, how important do you think it is as an artist to like know your way around making a beat as well as just curating one?
That is actually a great question. I'm not going to lie. That's actually one of the key things, I guess, that brought me from where I was earlier in the year to the point I am now, I guess, like progressively, is it's kind of like you said, like I ended up doing more production, and through production, I learned more of the fundamentals of music, if that makes sense. Like through making a beat, I got to learn like you could hear sounds like when you start producing, you can almost start to hear sounds that you couldn't hear before, kind of, or frequencies, like little things. When I started producing too, like a lot of people also said that listened to my music that like my flow and like my actual delivery and like style changed a lot because I actually understood like the bass line. It wasn't just like trying to rap on everything at once. Like I could hear the melody, I could hear the drums, I could hear the hi-hat, like everything separately. And like, I don't know, honestly, I'm not going to lie. If it wasn't for that little tiny bit of dabbling with production, I don't think I'd even actually have this, I wouldn't say like skill, but I wouldn't be where I'm at, like with my flow and my deliveries and stuff like that now. Like I used to be very choppy and, kind of like the 4x4, just rapping on every beat kind of thing. And then when I learned production, like I started seeing the pocket. Like if you've ever heard that term, man, the pocket is so key. It changes everything.
And then when I was looking at your Spotify bio, you said you hail from Grand Prairie, Alberta.
Yes, sir.
What's the music scene out there like?
I'm not gonna lie, it's relatively small. I don't know the direct population of our city right now, but I think I want to guess it's probably like a little bit over like 100K, 150K maybe. I'm not really too sure, but it's relatively a small town, so like the music is very precise per se. It's a kind of a rural place, so you find there's a lot of country rock music kind of happening, and there's like a lot of big names that come to our city. Like we had 3 Days Grace come here, Nickelback at one point, a couple other bands and stuff like that, like bigger names performing locally. But for hip hop and rap is actually I want to say like since I've been doing music around 2017 and even a little bit before that, there's been a lot of like EDM and DJing happening within Grand Prairie. But there's been a surgence, I guess, of like actual like of hip hop and like people like progressively making like doing it kind of instead of just like there's a lot of people, I guess you could say, like even me when I was in school, I had a lot of friends that did music and stuff like that, and it was just kind of like a hobby per se, and that's kind of what it was for like a lot of people here in town. But we have a couple, I'll actually say, like we do have a couple of like serious artists. Like we one of our biggest artists here in Grand Prairie, his name is Maz Morrow. If you want to go check him out, shout out to him, pay my respect for sure. He's killing it, man. He's actually putting our city kind of on the map for our area, all that kind of stuff. So and their whole group, now I'm thinking about it, Mind Over Matter, I believe. And there's also the Angry Outdoor Kids, Freshly Squeezed Entertainment. I'm just gonna start naming them all off, but yeah, they're they're like, I guess, like the holding the torch, I guess you could say. They're holding the torch for the city, and like even I could say from watching them since I've started, things have really changed, and I've seen a lot of people too like coming out and like kind of like doing this stuff seriously, taking it serious, because for a while I feel like people never really took it seriously because there was no one to look up to for that. Also, another legend that he actually sadly recently passed earlier this year here in Grand Prairie. His name is Dalen Grimard. He actually kind of like inspired me to like really start doing music and stuff. Like I turned 18. First time I ever went to the bar in my life, I went to one of his shows, and it just changed my fucking world. Like, excuse my language, but like, I like, coming from watching like rap shows and stuff like that, and like Much Music TV, all that kind of stuff, MTV, all that stuff. It would just seem like such a like a far fetched dream, I guess. Like, watching these dudes out in like Beverly Hills, Hollywood, and stuff, rapping, like, But then yeah, I turned 18, and the first thing I went out and I seen someone literally doing that. Like, in my opinion, man, fuck, you should have been up there too, honestly. But like, it was just mind blowing to see, like, man, there's someone here in our city that's actually doing this shit. Like, it just changed my whole view on everything. I was like, I got to do this seriously too, man. Like, and it's sad too. He sadly passed away earlier this year, but he's one of those people, like, he'll never ever be forgotten. He really changed music here in town, honestly.
Yeah, especially the way you were like talking about all these guys. It seems like you guys are all close, tight. You guys maybe may be making like music on your own paths, but like you guys are all supporting each other and such.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that you'll see a lot of that here in town as well. Is there's a lot of like it's kind of distant too in a way. Like I could honestly say for myself is like I'm kind of in the background of the whole thing. I don't perform like I did shows earlier, kind of like when I wasn't really doing music as seriously as I am now. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really go out to the events too much, but everybody, like you said, like when I talk to one artist, they talk highly of another. Talk to one artist, they talk highly of another. So it's really good to see that, and there's not like rap beef and stuff, or like like gang related like rap beef here in my city or nothing like that. So it's pretty cool too. It's like relatively chill, and it's progressive. Like everyone that's like it's easy to make a friend if you both do music, because all you got to say is like, oh, you make music. Like it's pretty rare here, so it's like, oh shit, let's chill.
What's your advice for new artists just hopping into the game?
Key advice is you got to be yourself, honestly. I think before I like started taking music seriously myself, I wasn't taking myself seriously enough, and I never really believed in it. Like I wasn't being myself either. Like you said, like going back to 2017 being like a very like key part in SoundCloud history, let's say. There's a lot of influences and a lot of things that were coming up, and there was like it's hard not to be like, oh, I want to be like that. Like I want to rap like that. I want to be like this guy, or like and like realistically, if you're focusing on that kind of thing, I find that you're gonna limit yourself, if that makes sense, because you're always gonna be focused on like what they would do, not what you would do. And like I battle with that for a long time, is like being inspired by people and then like just being too inspired. It's like I don't know. You gotta have a respect for it, and then take bits and pieces from things and create your own like robot, I guess you could say. Is like you gotta create your own truth kind of thing. be yourself and don't be afraid is very key, man. Like another thing is anxiety is like, excuse my language, man, but anxiety is a bitch, man, and that's something I honestly deal with to this day myself. This is my first interview ever, and I don't know if you could tell, a little bit nervous, but you can't be scared, man. If you want that, if you want that shit, you got to go get that. Like, you know, it's like they say, everyone wants the cake, but when the ingredients are there in front of you, who's gonna bake that? You know, bake that up. Let's go.
Any new projects people should look out for?
I got this new song coming out right now. I don't know. I'm in the process right now of deciding if whether or not I'm actually going to release an album with it, but I'm going to be posting a lot of snippets up, and it's something totally different. Like, I guess for the people that have heard my music before, they know that I'm not really like I wasn't using auto tune or doing any kind of like melodic, singy kind of stuff. And a lot of the stuff I've been doing lately is like a mixture of that. I've been teasing it a little bit to my closer friends and family, and like people have been going pretty crazy about it. So I'm excited, really excited to show that one off for sure. If there's an album with it, then I guess you could expect like similar quality on every song.
So that's probably why I never get it. Still chasing my dream, why these niggas say so much like honestly, bro, I just really don't get it. Still feel like I'm out here alone, losing friend by the back cause they thought that I was